Welcome to the Altered Call YouTube page. Today, we're going to take a slight detour into professional wrestling. I'm going to talk about why I'm better than Mother Teresa, and then somehow we're going to tie that back into God and a broader concept of truth. So, this week in the podcast, what we talked about was the idea of information versus truth. And I honestly wish that I had spent just a little bit more time on this episode. I think that there is a clear through line in the episode, but I think I could have cleaned a couple things up a little bit. So that episode was written a couple weeks ago. I've had some extra time to sit on the information, and I think I've got some examples in what we're going to do here that will help get the point that I was trying to get across. So, starting with the idea of information versus truth. We all kind of know that there is a difference between these two things, but it's a little hard to nail down what that difference is. And so I've got a couple examples that I want to go through to help demonstrate why those two ideas are in some way opposed to each other. So, starting with professional wrestling. If you are not a fan of professional wrestling and you missed the last week, you have missed precisely nothing. If you are a fan of professional wrestling and you missed the last week, you need to go to YouTube and find some stuff because it's a lot of fun. Now, what happened, for those of you who aren't fans, is that there's a character called R-Truth in WWE, and he was let go by the company. Now, this happens all the time, doesn't really matter why. What happened in this case is there was fan backlash. They said, we don't want this, we want you to keep him, we want to keep seeing him, we want you to keep using him. And so they hijacked all the shows for the following week, which were quite a number of them, with chants for "We want truth." Now, obviously, they were referring to this character. But one of the strengths of professional wrestling, as silly as it can be in a lot of ways, is that it blurs the line between reality and fantasy in really interesting and dynamic ways. So when there is this chant for "We want truth," it doesn't just play as "We want truth," the character. It also could play as "We want truth" generally. We want this to be a more true medium. We want the people in charge of this company to be more direct and honest with us. So somehow, because of the medium that it was going through, and you get just an arena full of people chanting "We want truth, we want truth," it was a very compelling visual. It was very compelling in a lot of ways that it maybe wasn't intended to be, but I was still drawn towards it, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think it's interesting. So I put a link to one of the examples below. There's a ton of them. There's a ton of information on what actually happened in this story and kind of why. We don't need to get into that. None of it matters. But I think what's interesting is "We want truth" is a very, very compelling phrase. And I think that if they had said, "We want information, we want data, we want statistics," nobody would have the same response. I think that somehow we know "we want data" isn't the same thing as "we want truth." But a lot of times, and in really subtle ways in real life, we settle for information, we settle for data, we settle for statistics in situations where truth is the thing that we're seeking after. And that's what I was trying to get at in the episode. A lot of times, churches and Christians will settle for information. Like, here's a bunch of things that happened in the Bible that are historically accurate. Okay, that's information. And that's not of no value, but it's not the important thing. Truth is the important thing. Whether the Bible is true, whether Jesus' resurrection is true, whether God is true, those are the important things. And a lot of times we settle for just the information. Like, did this thing actually happen? It's not that there's no value in that, but it's not the point. It's not the point. And somehow we all know that, but we still get sucked into this idea of, well, I need this, this, and this piece of information. So moving on to Mother Teresa, because I think that this makes the point really well. And what I was trying to get at with kind of the emotionalism and comparing ourselves to other people. So I did very little research on this topic. I know very little other than what is generally known about Mother Teresa. But I have made a list of things that are entirely factual to represent why I am better than her. So these are things that are valuable in our society. They are all objectively true as far as I know. So I'm going to make a one-sided argument as to why I am better than her. I am better than Mother Teresa because A, I'm taller than her. And that's a valuable thing. I'm pretty sure she took a vow of poverty, so over the course of my life, I will make more money than her. I'll live in a nicer house. I'll probably drive nicer cars. I don't think she ever got married, so I'm beating her in that regard. I don't think she had any kids, so I'm beating her there. Now, the problem is that when you look at all those metrics, which are objectively true, they don't make any sense because the truth of Mother Teresa's life can't be compared to these petty things that we like to compare ourselves to, right? The truth of her life, the truth of Mother Teresa's life is self-sacrificial love and giving to people. If there is a metric that we are going to compare someone to Mother Teresa, it's going to be that metric. But why? There are a million different metrics that we could compare them to. Well, it's because that is what we presume to be her purpose in the world. So either in comparing myself to Mother Teresa, we're going to say, well, how do I do on self-sacrificial love? In which case I fail miserably. Or we're going to say, that is the metric that we are holding her to. How does she do against that metric? And in that case, she knocked it out of the ballpark. She did a great job. We basically all agree on that. When you know your purpose, when you know why you exist in the world, you don't need to compare yourself to other people. You don't need to look around and go, well, how much money do they have? What kind of house do they live in? What kind of car do they drive? You just say, no, how am I doing against the thing that I'm supposed to be doing? All the comparisons to these little petty things just don't even make sense. It's not that they're not valuable. It's that comparing Mother Teresa by those metrics just seems stupid and inappropriate. So we'll compare her to what we presume her purpose is, which is self-sacrificial love. My point in the episode is to say, if you don't have that higher standard to hold yourself, either at a corporate level by saying the standard that God holds everyone to, or at an individual level saying, this is why I was made, then all of these comparisons are petty and stupid. And we have to stop doing them because they don't do anything other than make us feel good. And feeling good is not the point. Feeling good and truth are unrelated ideas. Now, when they coincide, that's very powerful. But whether or not something is true and how you feel about it really should not interact in any meaningful way. So when I say, I'm better than Mother Teresa because I'm taller than her, that comes across as a stupid comment. Because Mother Teresa should not be compared on height. She should be compared on self-sacrificial love. So if you're a Christian and you don't know what your purpose is, this is something you need to take to God. You need to go to God and say, look, why did you make me the way that you made me? Why did you put me in the world at this time, in this place, with this skill set? What am I supposed to be doing here? And that is the thing that you ought to be comparing yourself to. Not to, how am I doing against all of my buddies over there? They should each have their own thing. And this is something that you get directly from God. You need to talk to God. You need to figure out what it is that he's calling you to do. The purpose of Christians and the reason why God created humanity is to bring glory to God. So that is part of it. But once you get to the individual level, you get into the idea of calling. And there are certain things that God will call you to do, to say, look, this is your responsibility. Go over here, pay attention to this, do this thing. That is something that you can only get from God. So we've got a series on talking to God. I put it into a playlist recently. You can get after that and figure those things out. But if you don't know what that is, comparing yourself to anything else is just a waste of time. So stop doing it. So, information versus truth was the idea of the episode. I think that those examples bring a little bit more clarity than maybe the episode did with what we were doing. But without that standard, comparing yourself to other people, comparing how things make you feel is really all you're left with. And I think as Christians, we have the opportunity to rise above emotionalism, to rise above just comparing ourselves based on a bunch of data points that make us look good or feel good relative to other people. I don't think we need to be doing any of that. We need to be focusing on what God is uniquely calling us into and just go do that thing. And the benefit of that clarity is that you don't have to do everything. There's this sick fascination in our society with you have to have something to say about every topic. You have to have some sort of input or contribution to every social ill in the world. If you are the main character, if you are the person in charge of fixing everything, then yeah, you better get after it. You better go do everything. Just do more and more and more and more. If God is in charge and you listen to him, you only have to do the things that he tells you to do. The other things, you need to trust in him that he will send other people after those things. You get to focus on where he tells you to focus. And hopefully other people are out there listening and they'll address the other problems. Now, this isn't a reason to just give up on everything, but if you can trust in God and say, God is bigger than all of this. He's bigger than me. He's bigger than what I could bring to bear. You get to focus on one particular issue. Maybe it's a local issue with your family. Maybe it's something in your community. Maybe it's something at a national level. I don't know. Whatever he calls you to, you need to get after that and just focus all of your attention on that, because he'll send other people after the other things. Our goal is to redeem everything, but we don't have to do that on an individual basis. Just focus on the thing that he tells you to do. Trust that other people will be focusing on the things that they are told to do, and that eventually he will turn everything around. So, information versus truth, and the clarity that truth provides in your life. When Jesus says, "My yoke is easy, my burden is light," I don't think he's saying, become a Christian, your life will be easy. I don't think that's it. But something that does resonate with me, whether it's true or not, I don't know, is this idea of living and operating in truth is easier than living a lie. Lies need to be lies need to be supported. They need to be propped up. They need to be built up. They need to be regularly renewed. The truth doesn't require you to do anything. If God is in charge, he's going to be in charge whether you contribute or not. So contribute in the ways that he tells you to contribute and help bring some of his glory into actualization. But whether you do anything or not, God is in charge. It's not up to you. You don't have to do anything. Truth should be defended, but it doesn't need to be defended, because eventually people will look around and go, oh yeah, this has been true the whole time. What are we doing? So you can rest in that. You get to live your life. You get to have some fun as long as you're honoring God and listening to him. Just do the things you're told to do, and otherwise let it all go. So that's what I got for today. Thanks for listening, and put your phone down, go live some life. Thanks, guys.